1971 was a key crucial moment. So what goes down in 1971? Bangladesh gains their independence, but I'm assuming it doesn't happen just out of nowhere. What led up to that, and what happened
Wow.
that really marked Bangladesh?
I mean, it's a very tragic time. It was really bloody war. The country was really devastated. There were mass rapes. There were probably hundreds of thousands of Bangladeshi women were raped by the Pakistani forces and by their collaborators. It was a very tragic time. And it took Bangladesh many years to recover. It had, after that war, it had all sorts of problems. There were 10 million people displaced to India. India really helped. India then came in mainly because of the refugee war and basically, you know, took to the, basically fought Pakistan and won on behalf of Bangladesh. We had a guerrilla, really quite a ragtag group of guerrillas fighting in the jungles of Bangladesh. Bangladesh is, as I said, in the Bay of Bengal. There's a lot of places you can hide if you know what you're doing. And they were fighting these Pakistani forces, which didn't necessarily know how to do guerrilla jungle warfare. But still, it took 9 months. I mean, the trigger for it really was, I mentioned this enormous cyclone that 500,000 people died in. And this is, why it's so important to recognize the links between ecology, between climate change, essentially, and conflict. This is one of the first cases of this, probably. In 1970, there was a massive cyclone, and there'd been many cyclones in this area, in an area called Pola in the south. And probably about 500,000 people were killed, just wiped out, washed out into the sea. There was a 20-foot or 12-foot high tidal wave that just washed everyone out. I mean, these people were living in, quite fragile, maybe thatched houses. They're farmers, fisherfolk, those sorts of people. The whole area was devastated. And the country was at this point was part of Pakistan. But the rulers in West Pakistan, they didn't even know that this had happened for several days because there was no communication. West Pakistan was where all the investment was. It was where the army was. It was where industry was. Bangladesh, as far as, or East Bengal or East Pakistan as it was in those days, as far as they were concerned, was just a bunch of farmers. There was a kind of a racial dimension to this as well. They looked upon themselves as better Muslims. They're tall and strong and pale-skinned, and Bangladeshis are small and, more syncretic in their religion, more the Bengali culture, and the Hindu aspects of the Bengali culture were much more mixed in with the way we practice Islam in East Pakistan in those days. So they looked down on us. They thought we were poor and rubbish, and we had all of these cyclones. And so this thing happened, and they didn't really care. Like, there was very little response. It was some days before the Pakistan government sent anyone to help. But this is the 1970s, so this seems like a long time ago. In fact, it was even before I was born. But TV news was just a thing then. It was just starting, right? And so this was one of the first big disasters that hit the TV, that hit the world. The world who could watch the TV saw this, and they'd never seen anything like this devastation before. And they all sent people to help, all from all around the world. They sent people to help. The NGO Médecins Sans Frontières, they got started during that. That was their first, like, they weren't called that then, but their people first showed up for that. Another really big NGO that I used to work for, BRAC, they also got started then. So a lot of these organizations really cut their teeth on this cyclone. But everyone was horrified because the Pakistan government didn't give a shit. They were just like, well, this stuff happens a lot in this place. So this was a real trigger because a couple of weeks later, they had elections. And this was the first democratic elections they'd ever had in Pakistan. Sheikh Hasina's father won a landslide in this election and should have been made the prime minister of all of Pakistan because he won basically all the seats in the East Wing, and there was, he had the majority. Essentially, he should have been the prime minister, but they were not having some Bengali, some inferior person rule over their country. They were just shocked. And so they sent the army in to suppress this, what had become a national liberation movement by this time. People were so angry about the way the Pakistanis treated the the victims of the cyclone, but also this was after, years and years of neglect and discrimination. So there you go.
And then revolts happen and people demand independence.
Yeah, they did. They demanded independence. They were led by this Sheikh Mujib. They went so the army came, killed lots and lots of people. It was essentially one of those wars in which it had genocidal elements for sure. Like they were trying to really wipe out a whole class of people, all of the intellectuals and the leadership. They killed. They went deliberately to the main university, Dhaka University, and killed hundreds of the leading scientists and intellectuals and so on deliberately. It's a particular form of scholasticide, genocide.